Welcome to Once Upon a Castle, unlocking the magic of Disney, past and present. I'm Ginny, your guide through the parks and the pages of Disney's rich history. Each week, we will share expert tips to help you plan your perfect visit and explore the stories, secrets, and legends that make the magic real. From Walt's vision to today's hidden gems, we will help you feel more connected, more prepared, and more enchanted every step of the way. So, whether you're counting down the days to your next trip or just dreaming of a stroll down Main Street, USA, this is your place to discover the wonder. This is Once Upon a Castle. Welcome back to Once Upon a Castle, the show where we take a stroll down the avenues, attractions, and stories that make Disneyland more than just a park. It's a living, breathing piece of American imagination. Today, I am taking you into one of my absolute favorite corners of Disneyland, a land that feels human, mysterious, overgrown, and maybe just a little bit cursed. You know the one. It's the place where parrots can sing, explorers go missing, boats full of tourists might get attacked by hippos, and someone is always hammering away on a treehouse that probably isn't up to California building code. Yes, my friends, today we are stepping deep into Adventureland. But let's get started off with a listener review. I am so excited to share this one. Today's review comes from One Bad Fire Dog, who I'm pretty sure is my dad. And so if you're not my dad, I apologize, and thank you so much for writing this review. And if you are my dad, thank you so much for writing this review. My dad's been very supportive. He listens to all the episodes, has little comments, special requests, all the fun things. So thanks, Dad, for listening in. I suppose I should give a nod to you in that we are here today in part because of you. Because if it wasn't for you and Michelle all those years ago taking Mason and I to Disney World, these crazy doors would never have been unlocked. So thank you so much. Let's see what my dad says. He writes, I've thoroughly enjoyed listening to Ginny. You can truly hear her passion and excitement for Disney. All the information I've gotten so far has inspired me to spend a little more quality time to appreciate Disneyland more. Well, I am all about spending that quality time, so it sounds like we need to get my dad back in the parks for a trip. He basically just said it right there. We need to get to Disneyland ASAP. That would be super fun. That's what I hope that this podcast does for people that are new to the parks and people who have been going, is just learning a little bit more and making it more engaging, more special, just seeing the parks in a different way, a different light, not just seeing it as a theme park where you go around and you just run around like crazy and do a bunch of rides. But I mean, if that's your jam, by all means. But my hope is that this podcast brings to light a little bit more sparkle and shine. So if you are enjoying this episode, I'd love your help spreading the magic. As always, please consider leaving a 5-star rating and review. We are all out of reviews now, and I love hearing from you all. And leaving a rating and a review truly helps other Disney dreamers find their way to this podcast. You can also always reach me by email at magic@onceuponacastlepodcast.com. Okay, one thing I wanted to bring up to you guys is our Patreon. And I'll be honest and just transparent here. I have not been great about keeping up with it. To be transparent, I have had the best of intentions about Patreon, but things have just been super duper crazy in my personal life. Work is crazy. It's that time of the year that work's just crazy. And I'm starting a new business. So that is consuming a lot of my time. And the podcast, of course, keeping up with that. All of those things, being a wife, being a mother, they've all just been keeping me so incredibly busy. It's been really hard to keep up. But I am fairly active on Instagram and TikTok. So if you haven't already, come connect with me there. I haven't done as much content around park history or tips again, just my level of capacity right now is not there. So it's been mostly silly, fun stuff. That's really all I have the mental space for and literal time for. But I love, love, love doing the podcast and connecting with you guys. So come along and join me over on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll add those handles to the show notes. And, maybe eventually we will get Patreon up and firing. You are certainly free to come join me over on Patreon for the day that it really takes off. However, today is not that day, so you're all good. But definitely come over to Instagram and TikTok. So, however, if you are a fan of Patreon, one Patreon that is actually amazing is Steph with Magic Key Adventures. She was on a couple of weeks ago. She was our Main Street guest, and her Patreon is bumpin'. She just got done doing an amazing series on her trip to Disneyland Paris. You guys, she recapped her trip to Disneyland Paris, but also her entire 2-week trip to France. And it's just so good. So many amazing stories. And if you're looking to travel abroad soon or eventually, you have got to go and listen. She shared so many great things. She just has, in general, great stuff on her Patreon and several episodes on that whole trip. So it is binge worthy. Go check them out. And a few episodes ago, she actually released a recent trip report. And this one was an extra special one. So she recently graduated with a college degree in business management and went to, of course, Disneyland to celebrate such an amazing accomplishment. It is a well-deserved trip, my friend. I personally have received 3 degrees since becoming an adult and a mother and working full-time. So I personally know what a big dang deal this accomplishment for Steph is and what a celebration. So she deserved that amazing trip to Disneyland. I am so, so proud of her. Not only was she kicking butt at school, working full time, being a mom and a wife, and having her own podcast, but she has made the time to be a supportive friend of Once Upon a Castle. And she was just recently, as in this week, just talked to her maybe a day or two ago, she was at Disneyland. And I am Steph, impatiently waiting for that trip report episode. So I just need to live vicariously through her. And so do you, my friend. So do you. So we need our fix. Let me hook you up. I'll add a link to her show in the show notes. Just head on over, check out her Patreon, check out her podcast if you haven't already. And I just really love this Disney community. Everyone is so supportive, kind, and welcoming. And Steph really exemplifies that and deserves all of the success. So go shower her with love, support, and heaps of congratulations. Okay, let's get on with the show. So explorers, grab your hat and let's wander into Adventureland together. We'll peek behind the vines, notice the details most guests miss, and explore why, even decades later, this land can still make you feel like you've stepped onto a tropical island, a lost river, and the edge of an ancient temple. This is the start of our 4-part series all about Adventureland, the magic, the memories, and the meticulous design that makes it feel alive. In this first episode, we'll focus on the attractions, the experiences that define Adventureland. From the singing birds of the Tiki Room to the daring twists of the Jungle Cruise, the thrills of Indiana Jones's adventure, and the hidden charms of the Treehouse. Now, next time, we'll explore the entertainment, the music, ambient sounds, and the surprises that bring the jungle to life. Then we'll dive into dining, the tropical flavors, scents, and snacks that make Adventureland irresistible. And finally, we'll wrap it up with a special guest who will share their personal love letter to this adventurous land. So let's take our first steps into Adventureland, where every path, vine, and hidden detail is an invitation to adventure. Now, Adventureland isn't the biggest land in Disneyland. It's actually one of the tiniest, yet somehow it packs in more atmosphere than whole sections of the park. You don't just walk into Adventureland, you cross a threshold. The lighting shifts, the foliage closes in around you, and suddenly you're not in Anaheim anymore, Toto. You're somewhere humid, dangerous, and exciting. Maybe South America, maybe Polynesia, maybe Africa. It's a mashup. It's fantasy. It's a world based purely on adventure movies, pulp novels, and nature documentaries. And that's what we're going to uncover today: how Adventureland was created, what inspired it, how its attractions evolved, and the hidden little details most people never notice. So, grab your explorer's cap or, a Dole Whip, and let's dive in. Adventureland starts with Walt Disney's love for documentaries. Yes, documentaries, not pirates, not roller coasters, documentaries. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Walt produced a series of award-winning nature films called True Life Adventures. These films showcased wildlife from Africa, Asia, South America, exotic places to most Americans at the time. And audiences loved them. They won Oscars. And Walt said, let's turn that feeling into a place you can walk into. Originally, Adventureland was going to be called True Life Adventureland. Walt at one point even floated an idea of using real animals in a Jungle Cruise attraction. Experts told him, Walt, most wild animals don't want to entertain. They sleep, they hide, and they definitely don't show up on cue. So Walt, of course, invented a solution: mechanical animals, what would later evolve into audio animatronics. And that's really important. Adventureland helped create Disney's most iconic technology. In the 50s, it opened as a very minimal land: the Jungle Cruise, some tropical foliage, and a few small shops. That's it. No tiki room yet, no treehouse, definitely no Indiana Jones. Just a jungle boat ride and a dream of wild adventure. Originally, plans sketched out a true life adventure on the east side of Disneyland, alongside what would become Tomorrowland. But when the land was surveyed, the Imagineers discovered a stand of tall eucalyptus trees on the west side. So rather than cutting them down, they realized, hey, that's perfect for a jungle background. So they shifted the land's location. The east side became Tomorrowland. Adventureland moved west. Now, Bill Evans, we've talked about him before. He is legendary among Disney insiders. He was the horticulturist that was put in charge of landscaping Disneyland in general when it first opened, and that includes Adventureland. He came from a family tradition of botany and ran a plant nursery before working with Disney, so he was highly qualified. The challenge was Disneyland was being built on what was largely orange groves and farmland, not a tropical jungle. Evans had to create convincing exotic jungle out of Southern California soil and, of course, budget constraints. So, to build a lush, believable jungle, Evans used a mix of actual tropical plants and non-tropical character plants. For instance, he planted walnut trees upside down to simulate mangrove roots above the water and reused orange trees from the old groves, but grew them into vines to look like dense jungle growth. Some of the mature plants were actually salvaged from areas scheduled for demolition. As highways expanded and trees were cut, Evans' team would call and ask if they could, quote unquote, rescue old trees for Disneyland. As one former crew member recalled, they drive around LA and Pasadena offering homeowners money and moving crews. Hey there, any chance you're tired of that tree? We'll give you $200 and cart it away. This is one of my all-time favorite not only Adventureland facts, but Disneyland facts. It just shows how ingenuitive this team was, how scrappy they were, and really how committed they were to this overall vision. So rather than shipping in tropical rainforests, Disneyland's jungle started as a patchwork of rescued trees, a clever reuse, and careful horticultural artistry. Bill Evans later said that the goal was to build a Hollywood jungle, a place that felt real to visitors, even if biologically it was a carefully constructed illusion. Now, you'll see tribal masks, thatched hut styling, and South Seas inspired decor that greet you at the entrance of Adventureland. And many of these came from not generic theme park stock, but from real tiki culture artisans. Oceanic Arts, which is based in Whittier, California, created those carved masks and many of the wooden decor pieces. Robert H. Carter was one of the primary carvers who brought those masks and decor elements to life, carving wood, shaping masks, and tribal-style artifacts to line the entry bridge and land pathways. So the exoticism of Adventureland wasn't just a painted-on facade. It came from real artisans with a background in Pacific and Polynesian-style art, which gave the land some authenticity, or at least styled authenticity. In the late 60s, Adventureland truly grew its personality. We got Swiss Family Treehouse, we got the Tahitian Terrace restaurant, which brought in Polynesian dancing and tikis before tiki culture really exploded in America. And most importantly, it brought the Enchanted Tiki Room, which opened in 1963. And suddenly, Adventureland wasn't just visual, it literally sang. By the 90s, things changed again. The land took on a 1930s expedition vibe thanks to one of the major attractions. You know it, Indiana Jones Adventure. Suddenly, Adventureland had ruins, relics, and a backstory. It wasn't just some random jungle. It was Explorer's Outpost, and that vibe survives today. Fast forward to the 2000 and 2010s, dining evolves, crowds increase, we get a new snack spot like the Tropical Hideaway, and in 2023, the Treehouse is reinvented again, now honoring its original Swiss Family inspiration, but with a modern twist. Today, Adventureland is the perfect stew of nostalgia and danger, mystery and comedy, and a little exploration. It never tries to be realistic. It tries to be romantically adventurous, not a real jungle, the storybook version. All right, now that we've explored the land as a whole, let's get personal. Let's step inside each attraction and uncover their secrets. I don't know how to make that effect actually happen in the podcast, so just pretend it was there. All right, let's talk about the Enchanted Tiki Room. Like I said a minute ago, it opened in 1963. The idea for the Tiki Room stemmed from a combination of mid-century America's tiki Polynesian craze, plus Disney's keen interest in immersive experiences. In the early 1960s, tiki culture, rum drinks, bamboo decor, island-style architect were trendy in the U.S. Disney saw it as a chance to build a unique escapist attraction. When you step into the Enchanted Tiki Room, you're not just entering a theater. You're walking into a giant tropical music box that literally comes to life around you. The building is designed like a Polynesian ceremonial house with thatched roofing, carved wood, and textured stone meant to look weathered by the sun and the sea. But what's interesting is it's not just modeled on just one culture. Imagineers blended elements from Hawaii, Tahiti, New Zealand, and even Papua New Guinea. It's a fantasy Polynesia, a place that doesn't really exist in the real world. Now, Walt Disney and his team wanted more than just a ride. They wanted a show, and not just any show. The ambition was to bring the tropics, animate it, make it live, make it sing. Walt was such a strong believer in the show that he personally funded it, giving it the official name of Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room. Now, unlike a normal theater, there's no front. The audience sits on wooden benches arranged in a square around the center of the room. The stage is literally everywhere. The birds are above you in the rafters, the carved tikis surround you on the walls, and even the carved poles are alive. Some of them later turn out to be drums or faces that sing and react. That layout was intentional. Walt didn't want an audience simply watching animatronics. He wanted guests to sit inside them, surrounded 360 degrees. Now remember, this was the world's first audio animatronic show, so Disney wanted the technology to feel like magic happening all around you. This show was a testing ground. It was the first time Disney used fully synchronized audio animatronics. It wasn't just birds on strings. Every blink, feather twitch, and tap of a beak were perfectly timed to a pre-recorded track. This tech would later lead to Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, The Hall of Presidents, and everything modern from Galaxy's Edge to Pandora and Disney World. The decorative style, tikis, tribal masks, tropical carvings, thatched roofing, Polynesian island motifs was heavily influenced by real-world tiki art, Pacific Polynesian inspiration, and styled exotic decor. Disney commissioned craftspeople and artists who specialized in that type of design. Think wooden carving, bamboo work, faux island aesthetics. It was said that when making some of the carvings for the Tiki Room, Rolly Crump had to take the project out to the wet parking lot and carve it. I guess the building was too cold for the proper molding, so he headed out to the sun-drenched parking lot and did his carvings there. It was also said that he carved these figures with a plastic fork from the commissary there on property. Again, Disney ingenuity at its finest. Now, the building itself, from architecture to interior design, had to combine island lodge charm with the practical needs of a show. Backstage areas for animatronic machinery, wiring, maintenance access, sound and projection systems, controlled lighting, ventilation, guest seating, air conditioning, etc., etc. Now, the Tiki Room was supposed to be a restaurant with singing birds. That's why the show's architecture and decor can feel furnished. The building was designed to support dining, kitchen, busing operations before the idea changed. Now, some design elements remain as vestiges of that plan. The idea was scrapped, though, because people would never leave. You can't seat new diners in if someone's stuck watching the beautiful singing birds. Now, let's get into the main attraction, the cast of characters putting on this iconic show. The animatronic birds aren't identical. They have distinguishable characters, different voices, slightly varied motion, and unique animation cycles. It gives the show a sense of ensemble performance, not just mechanical repetition. There are over 150 audio animatronics in the room, but the show revolves around 4 masters of ceremony parrots. We have Jose. He's voiced with a Spanish flair, and he has red and gold feathers. Michael, an Irish accented green parrot, Pierre, a French blue parrot, and Fritz, a German accented yellow parrot. Now, what's also interesting is that the parrots' feather colors are inspired by the countries in which they represent. So if you look closely, you can see Michael, for example, his coloring matches that of the Irish flag. Fritz's colorings also match that of the German flag. Each one represents a different cultural stereotype of entertainers from the classic era of musical revues. Walt loved the ideas that these birds were famous performers from around the world gathering here to put on a show. The soundtrack is inspired by mid-century exotica, a real musical popular genre in the 1950s and 60s. Think Hawaiian guitar, marimba, vibraphone, bongos, soft chimes, and tropical drumming. This music style was popular in tiki bars and lounges during Walt's lifetime, so the show reflects the trendy entertainment of the era. The signature song, the Tiki 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 Room, was written by the Sherman Brothers, the same guys who wrote It's a Small World and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Now, here are some fun things happening in the Tiki Room that you should really be on the lookout for the next time you enter in. They pump in smells. Yes, smells, particularly a light tropical flower scent and occasionally pineapple, the same one used next door for Dole Whip. The birds have tiny breathing movements. Some of the chest feathers flutter gently just to sell the illusion that they're alive even when they're sitting still. Now, the tikis aren't wood. Many are actually sculpted resin and plastic blends with textures carved to mimic wood grain more than real wood could. There are hidden speakers everywhere. Some are built inside faux drummers, tiki heads, or perches. So when something sings, the sound literally comes from that spot in the room. Just when you think you've seen everything, the room suddenly transforms. Drums boom, tiki gods wake up, the lighting shifts into volcanic reds and oranges. The walls start chanting, and there's a simulated tropical storm, thunder, rain, lightning cackles, all inside a tiny theater. It's theatrical, dramatic, and honestly, just a little intense for such a goofy little show. But here we are. The storm then magically calms, the birds go back to their peaceful harmony, and Jose suddenly remembers they need to clear the room out. It's time for you all to go. The whole effect is like a little vacation that goes from lounge musical to ceremonial spectacle to comedy finale. Now, let's get into some of the facts about the Tiki Room itself. The original show featured dozens, over 100 of animated figures, birds, macaws, toucans, drums, tiki statues, flowers, all programmed in sync with music and vocals. This volume made it the largest animatronic ensemble of its time. The show was driven by pre-recorded music and singing. The voices, a chorus of birds and tikis singing in harmony. This soundtrack is essential. Animatronics are synced exactly to it. The effect, a fully coordinated tropical concert. The Tiki Room is more than just a decorative hut. It houses all of the animatronics, backstage machinery, sound, lighting system, and seating for a full audience. The idea was to simulate a tropical grotto. Now, typically, a show lasts around 10 to 12 minutes, depending on the version and pacing. This allows a steady rotation of guests. Roughly every 10 minutes, a new group comes on in. And part of the show's atmosphere includes subtle effects like the sound of a tropical rainstorm, the ambient lighting that imitates lightning or dusk, and ambient jungle noises to make the illusion more complete. And as the first of its kind, the Tiki Room demanded regular maintenance and careful show control procedures. Animatronics had to be cleaned, mechanical joints lubricated, audio checked, and the building environment controlled, humidity, ventilation, to preserve both machinery and ambience. So, my friends, that's the Enchanted Tiki Room, a little slice of tropical paradise tucked into the corner of Adventureland. And honestly, it's easy to walk past it and think, oh, that's just a cute little bird show, but it's so much more than that. This thing was a turning point. It was the moment Disneyland went from being a theme park with rides to being a park of worlds, characters, moods, and places that come alive. Disney didn't just build a show with singing birds. He built the technology that allowed those birds to exist. The Tiki Room was literally the birthplace of audio animatronics. Without it, we might not have pirates firing cannons in the Caribbean, or presidents giving speeches, or hitchhiking ghosts following us home. It's kind of wild to think about the future of immersive attractions started with a room full of wisecracking parrots and a chorus of tiki humming along to Tiki 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 Room. And I think that's part of its charm. It's small, it's strange, it's nostalgic, it's kind of soothing, and it's like the theme park version of comfort food. It doesn't try to impress you with speed or explosions or special effects. It just invites you in, lets you sit down, cool off for a few minutes, and remind you that magic can be simple. It can be carved wood, paper flowers, a little music, and a whole lot of imagination. So, next time you're in Adventureland, take a minute to go see the birds sing words and the flowers croon, because you won't just be watching a show. You'll be stepping into the moment Disney animation became physical, and the moment Disneyland truly learned how to make stories come alive. All right, enough tropical tunes and bird puns for now. The Tiki Room is full of so much history. We barely scraped the surface. If you need to know more, I highly recommend reading the book Before the Birds Sang Words by Ken Bruce. It is an amazing deep dive all into the creation of this wonderful place we call the Enchanted Tiki Room. Okay, adventurers, let's keep moving along Adventureland and head toward another classic icon of the jungle, the world-famous Jungle Cruise. Jungle Cruise was part of the original roster of attractions when Disneyland opened in 1955. From the start, the idea was to give guests a tropical rivers of the world experience, a kind of safari river ride that imagined jungles in Africa, Asia, South America, all condensed into one meandering water journey. As one of the opening day attractions, it helped define what Disneyland could be, a place of escape, adventure, and fantasy, not just a static amusement park. Its success helped prove that themed adventure works by blending art, landscaping, ride engineering, and storytelling, and by making you feel like you're somewhere else entirely. Jungle Cruise helps cement the model of theme park as story world, not just as a collection of rides. That model underpins almost every major attraction today because Jungle Cruise marries calm boat ride plus humor plus gentle thrills plus visual variety plus repeatability. It appeals to a wide audience: kids, adults, first-time visitors, longtime fans. It's a ride that can be enjoyed again and again and often delivers something new, especially with different skippers. The art director, ride designer credited with the original Jungle Cruise concept at Disneyland is Harper Goff. We talked a little bit about him in our Main Street episodes. His vision was inspired in part by the classic film The African Queen. The idea of jungle steamer boats, remote rivers, wild animals, and the sense of exploration. Now, early planning was quite organic. Legend says designers used a sandbox to sketch the river routes, then actually drove a station wagon over the proposed plans to test curves, sightlines, and pacing, long before formal blueprints locked everything in. That sense of improvisation and cinematic thinking shaped the early ride design. For the decorative jungle look, carved masks, tribal-styled artifacts, rustic bridges, faux rocks, exotic textures, Disney brought in artisans and sculptors familiar with tropical jungle-themed aesthetics. These details help sell the illusion that you're not in California, but in some remote river valley. The global jungle concept, mixing Africa, South America, Asia, meant the art direction wasn't tied to a single real-world culture. It was a stylized, romanticized mashup that gave creative freedom to make the ride feel exotic, mysterious, and universal. Guests board a jungle steamer, a boat styled like early 20th century riverboats, and drift along a slow-moving, carefully rooted waterway. The environment is jungle canopy above, dense foliage around, and animatronic or static wildlife placed along the banks. The ride was designed to condense multiple global rivers into one: Africa's jungles and rivers, South American rainforests, Asian waterways, giving a greatest hits of jungle adventure in a roughly 8 to 10-minute ride, depending on the route, the skipper, and the effects. In early years, the ride was more documentary style. You were meant to feel like you were on a real safari or exploration cruise. Early ideas reportedly considered having real animals, exotic wildlife, but animal behavior, safety, maintenance, and unpredictability made live animals just impractical. So, designers opted for mechanical or animatronic wildlife, which in the 1950s was pioneering, tricky, and expensive. But over time, comedic elements and showmanship were added, which changed the ride's tone completely. Over decades, Jungle Cruise has been updated in tone, in effects, and in layout, while keeping its core premise. Some of the key changes and developments include a tone shift from serious safari to comedic adventure. In the early years, Jungle Cruise had a more serious documentary tone where you were on safari with those exotic animals and wild rivers. Now, as years passed, humor was introduced. Skippers began delivering quips and jokes, turning the ride into a comedic, tongue-in-cheek adventure rather than a solemn river journey. That shift has become a signature. Many riders go for the jokes as much as the scenery. And by many riders, I mean me. I go for the jokes. Now, what also changed were the effects and animatronics that were added. Over time, Disneyland improved the animatronic animals, added more gags, updated scenic details, and maintained or refreshed the jungle vegetation to keep the environment lush. Now, another thing that changed was part of the layout and the routing. As new attractions and expansions have been built in and around Adventureland and Disneyland at large, the waterways and land layout have occasionally adjusted. These changes help the park manage crowd flow, maintenance access, and expansion, while trying to preserve the immersive jungle river illusion. Now, regular maintenance and soft updates need to happen because the ride relies heavily on living, or rather once living, scenery, animatronics, water management, and guest safety. Disneyland performs periodic maintenance, refurbishments, repainting, vegetation trimming, or replanting, effects upgrades, and sometimes small story or scene tweaks to keep the ride fresh and safe. The Jungle Cruise set a template, a blueprint for what a themed adventure ride could be: immersive environment, story and atmosphere, adventure, water ride, animatronics, set design, horticulture. Without Jungle Cruise, Disney might have stayed closer to the fairground ride model rather than become a place of worlds. Its success showed that people don't just want to ride, they want to believe, to be transported, to feel like they're somewhere else entirely. And that shift in expectation helped pave the way for everything that came after: thrill rides, dark rides, fantastical worlds, immersive lands. For many Disneyland fans, old and new, Jungle Cruise captures something unmistakable: the charm of a simpler, gentler adventure. The kind where you drift along a river, hear the birds and the animals rustle, the skipper tells a few jokes, and maybe, if you feel like Indiana Jones or a safari explorer or just a kid on vacation who believes maybe, just maybe, there's something wild around the next bend. That might be the greatest legacy of all, letting us believe. Let's continue our journey and head next door to Indiana Jones Adventure, Temple of the Forbidden Eye. Now, by the late 1990s, Adventureland had nostalgia, charm, and some classic attractions, but many fans and Imagineers felt the land could use an injection of adventure, danger, cinematic spectacle. The idea was to evolve Adventureland from a jungle safari tropics zone into a richer explorer's expedition world. The decision to build a new, more intense dark ride experience came with ambitions. A ride that combined thrills, storytelling, and immersive environment, something more modern and dramatic than the laid-back boat rides or the walk-through treehouse. The ride was developed by Walt Disney's Imagineering, WDI. Imagineers wanted a ride that felt like you'd stepped into a 1930s-style adventure movie, complete with temple ruins, curses, danger, and unknown relics. The project represented a bold expansion of what Disneyland Ride could offer: motion, special effects, dark ride storytelling, and an intense immersive environment. The ride opened in 1995, marking a major turning point for Adventureland, from gentle fantasy to cinematic thrill adventure. But why build it? Because Disney saw that tastes change. Visitors wanted more excitement, and fans wanted more depth. Indiana Jones Adventure gave Adventureland renewed relevance, a modern anchor that blended the land's classic jungle vibe with cinematic adventure. Indiana Jones Adventure uses a ride system called the Enhanced Motion Vehicle, EMV. Originally inspired by military off-road simulators, this system allows the ride vehicle, essentially a transporter, to tilt, rock, vibrate, pitch, simulating rough terrain, unstable floors, sudden lurches, and the sense of danger. That motion system was state of the art at the time and gave the ride a visceral, physical feel unmatched by traditional dark rides or boat rides. Because of the EMV, the ride isn't a gentle drift or a passive ride. It's dynamic and unpredictable. This makes the experience more intense and engaging. It helps sell the illusion that you're navigating a booby-trapped temple rather than riding a ride cart. The ride's queue, the waiting line before the ride, is famously immersive. Many consider it among the best in theme park history as you wind through flickering torches, crates stamped with expedition gear, dusty walls, mysterious carvings, and maraglyphics. You feel like you're part of an archaeological expedition about to enter an ancient temple. The maraglyphs, a coded alphabet carved into the walls, are one of the ride's cleverest touches. On opening week, Disney reportedly gave out decoder cards so eager fans could translate the symbols into fun messages. That level of layered detail elevates the queue from mere line to prelude to story prologue. Once inside, the ride delivers collapsing floors, sudden drops, fire effects, darkness, dramatic lighting, curses, temple guardians, and a race against an enormous rolling boulder. Oh my! The ride blends multiple disciplines: motion engineering, the EMV vehicles, set design, temple architecture, torchlit corridors, crates and artifacts, the special effects, lighting, fire, falling ceilings, collapsing walls, sound design, temple ambiance, ominous music, voiceovers, and the classic dark ride storytelling. Unlike many rides that rely only on animatronics or visuals, Indiana Jones Adventure relies heavily on environmental storytelling. The decay, dust, gear, crates, relics, and ruined artifacts all tell a story before any ride vehicle moves. That helps build immersion before the ride even starts. Because of these elements, the ride is as much about tension, suspense, and mood as it is about thrills. It engages multiple senses: sight, sound, motion, even smell, those dusty corridors, old wood, torch smoke, to fully transport guests. From its 1995 debut, Indiana Jones Adventure has undergone maintenance, upkeep, and occasional updates to effects or safety. Because the ride uses motion simulation and complex effects, maintenance is vital to keep the experience smooth, safe, and reliably immersive. Some elements seen in early days, such as extra gags triggered by cast members, surprise dart effects, or optional random surprises, have been scaled back or removed over time for safety, reliability, or capacity reasons. But the core story, motion, and dramatic effects remain intact. The presence of Indiana Jones Adventure changed how people viewed Adventureland. Instead of just being a nostalgic, slow-paced tiki jungle land, Adventureland became a destination for intense adventure and thrills. That shift influenced the way Disneyland selectively updates or adds attractions, balancing nostalgia and modernization, calm and excitement. It gives guests total immersion. Crossing the queue threshold feels like entering a movie set. The ride delivers on that promise with motion, effects, and mood. It's a blend of classic park magic plus modern thrills. It keeps the spirit of Disneyland storytelling and theming, but meets modern expectations for excitement and special effects. Its groundbreaking queue demonstrated that the experience should begin before guests ever board a vehicle, turning waiting time into part of the story, and by adding high-octane adventure to a land known for nostalgia and family-friendly charm, it helped redefine the balance of Disneyland itself. Thanks to Indy, immersive worlds, detailed queues, and story-driven thrill rides became the new standard, both at Disneyland and throughout the theme park industry. This ride is full of adventure and fun. Here are some things to be on the lookout for in your next treasure hunt. All of the writing carved into the temple walls is a real coded alphabet. You can actually translate every symbol. Look for phrases like, "Beware the eyes of Mara," "Do not look into the eye," "Time will tell no lies," "They took a shortcut," "They never returned." You can find translation charts online, or you can hunt for those old decoder cards. Now, near the collapsing spike hallway, there's a bamboo pole wrapped in rope. Tug it gently and listen for spikes falling into the chamber. In line, you'll pass a rope hanging into a deep pit. Tug on it, and you'll hear the excavation crew react from below. Now, look for shipping crates that are stamped with things like "Delivered to Club Obi-Wan," "Property of Escargot," get it? Escargot. V. Jones Supplies, a nod to Indy's family, and dates referencing the movie's release years. Inside the briefing room, now look closely at the projector equipment. Some parts are reused props from old attractions and film sets, a subtle nod to Indy's relic hunting. And the central rule for the attraction is don't look into the eyes of Mara. If you stare at the large stone symbol when entering the main chamber, it animates differently, cracking, glowing, and cursing you. The effect corresponds to your action. Originally, the temple could offer wealth, eternal youth, future sight. Even though the randomization was removed, the 3 different chamber variations still physically exist. So look for those symbols of these gifts as your vehicle moves in. In the snake temple scene, many don't notice this, but the cobra's eyes briefly reflect Mara. Indy shouts unique lines depending on timing. "Back, back," or "I hate snakes." Look closely at the broken stones in the hallway. They form a hidden Mickey near the base of the temple wall. Some skeletons you pass are wearing jewelry stolen from earlier scenes, suggesting they made the same mistake you're about to. Dun, dun, dun! Now, as you escape at the end, look at the faces carved into the walls and the bridge cracks you drove over earlier. They update subtly throughout the day as lighting cues change, making the temple feel alive. Let's continue on our journey through this wonderful land of adventure, and let's take a peek into the Swiss Family to Tarzan to back again Swiss Family treehouse. The original treehouse opened in 1962 as Swiss Family Treehouse. Its concept was built around the idea of a survivor family making a home in a tree on a remote island. Rope pulleys, bamboo furniture, salvaged shipwreck parts, water wheels, primitive craftsmanship. It wasn't flashy. Instead, it celebrated rugged resourcefulness and imagination. Look what we built using island trash, is one way you could think of it. The tone is immersive, exploratory, and playful. Guests climb up, explore the rooms built into the tree, looked over jungle canopies, and felt like castaways building shelter, not theme park guests. The house was supposed to feel homemade and lived in, a contrast to polished rides or flashy attraction. That contrast was part of the charm and part of the design. Instead of delivering thrills or spectacle, the treehouse offered a sense of discovery, quiet wonder, and gentle adventure. A fascinating bit often overlooked. The water wheel that powered the kitchen, or at least suggested the idea of a functional water wheel, right? In the original treehouse was made using molds taken from a real mill. The wheel was engineered so that rather than grind grain or lumber, it would spin forever without doing any real work. The design choice reflects the core Imagineering philosophy: suggest realism, but optimize for safety and longevity. That water wheel and the entire aesthetic of DIY island survival show how the Imagineers aimed for story from structure. Rather than paint a backdrop, they built a believable world with functional-looking mechanics, giving a level of tactile credibility to the fantasy that helped make the treehouse feel more than a ride or set, a home from another world. As decades passed and new generations visited Disneyland, the original Swiss Family Treehouse began to feel dated. In 1999, the attraction was reimagined and rethemed as Tarzan's Treehouse, tied to the then recent animated film Tarzan. The same massive treehouse structure remained, but the narrative shifted. Instead of a castaway family's home, it was now a jungle guerrilla-style treehouse with more vines, more wild jungle motifs, and aesthetics changed to reflect the Tarzan story's tone, more dramatic, more tied to jungle myth and adventure than homey survival. This retheme speaks to an important function of theme parks: adaptation. As taste and audiences change, attractions evolve. The treehouse transformation underscores a willingness to reinterpret old assets to stay relevant. In 2023, the attraction was revamped yet again, this time as Adventureland Treehouse. The Tarzan brand was removed, but rather than revert exactly to the 1962 Swiss Family version, the Imagineers chose a middle path, a modern reimagining inspired by the old spirit. The newer version celebrates a family of adventurers, combining classic DIY salvage survival vibes with updated storytelling sensibilities, perhaps more inclusive, more universal, more in tune with modern tastes. The restored water wheel once again uses the original molds, a conscious tribute to the attraction's origins while embracing modern standards. Essentially, Adventureland becomes homage and reinvention. It honors the original creative spirit while refreshing it. It shows how Disneyland can evolve not by erasing the past, but by reinterpreting it for new audiences. The original treehouse was part of early-era Disneyland's ambition to create immersive environments, not just rides, but places you can live in your imagination. It wasn't built simply to thrill, but to let guests roam, explore, and dream. As a walk-through attraction, it offered contrast to the ride-heavy parts of the park. No mechanical rigging, no ride vehicles, no special effects, just architecture, set design, theming, and imagination. That made it accessible, low intensity, and appealing to families. Now, while exact cost figures, build time, duration, and all lead designer names from 1962 aren't easily found in public sources, at least not reliably documented, the attraction stands as a testament to early Imagineering philosophy. Build immersive, story-driven environments that rely on atmosphere, art, and guest participation rather than thrills. Its appeal lies in its tactile realism, a believable home built from driftwood and salvage, functioning water wheel, rope bridges, rustic furnishings, a castaway home fantasy built into a giant tree. That sense of place and grounded fantasy is unique among theme park attractions. And that's the story of Adventureland's treehouse, from Swiss Family Robinson's clever DIY ingenuity to Tarzan's jungle flair, and now back to a modern adventure-loving family that nods to the past while keeping things fresh. It's one of those attractions that don't rely on speed or big thrills. It's about exploration, imagination, and storytelling you can touch and feel. The treehouse reminds us that sometimes the magic of Disneyland is in the small, immersive details, the kind of magic that lets you slow down, look around, and get lost in a world someone else dreamed up just for you. And that, my friends, is Adventureland, a land built on documentaries, fueled by imagination, layered with jokes, mysteries, temples, birds, snakes, and maybe a little historical inaccuracy, but that's what makes it perfect. It's not about being realistic, it's about how you feel exploring it. It invites you to pretend, to discover, to simply escape. Adventureland is only a few hundred feet of space, but every inch is packed with story, with adventure. Next time you cross that bridge and enter the jungle, look around. Notice the carvings, listen to the drums, smell the tropical air. Adventureland isn't a ride or a show or a queue. It's a feeling, a timeless feeling of curiosity and possibility. Thanks for exploring with me today. And remember, if you ever meet a skipper who asks if you want to see the backside of water, the answer is always yes. Next week, we're diving even deeper into Adventureland, but this time we'll focus on the entertainment that brings this jungle paradise to life. You definitely won't want to miss it. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to follow, rate, or leave a review. It truly helps more Disney dreamers discover the magic of the parks. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Once Upon a Castle Podcast, or on TikTok at Virginia K. West. And now, I'm curious, after all that Adventureland magic, are you inspired? Tell me, if you were able to create a new attraction for Adventureland, what would it be? Share your thoughts in the reviews on TikTok, Instagram, or you can even just email me. I'll put my email in the show notes. I can't wait to hear what you have come up with. Until next time, keep exploring, keep noticing the magic around you, and as always, I'm wishing you a great, big, beautiful tomorrow. Convoloosh!